Take 2. First time didn't work, so here we go again. So we have a maze and a walkway, same maze and a walkway from example number 3 up here, except for the big difference is that the walkway only has 1 yard instead of the 2. So I started the equation here. This is going to be my length, and this is going to be my width, and they equal 5,616. So I'm going to multiply my 2 binomials together, just so I'm taking length times width here. And I get 2x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 5,616. And again, I got this because I was twice the width, and then there's 2 yards on both sides of the walkway. And then this is the width, and then again, I shouldn't say 2 sides, 1 yard on both sides, and since there's 2 of them, it's plus 2. I'm going to kick out the 4 so I can complete the square. Now remember, this example is, so if I kick out the 4 here, give me a second, that'd be 5,612. And I am, A is not 1 anymore. And since it's 2, we're going to divide this all by 2 and start from completing the square when A is 1 here. So 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. 3x, 6x divided by 2 is 3x. And then 5,612 divided by 2 is 2,806. I apologize. It's hard to write with this weird little pen. Then we're going to complete the square. So those of you that like to actually make the square. So x squared goes up in this corner. I get an x and an x. And then 3x, half of that would be 1.5. So I have 2 1.5s. And then 1.5 times 1.5 leaves me with 2.25. So to complete the square with this new, more improved C, we're going to add 2.5 to both sides. And remember, I like to box them in. Let me see if I can find a better one here. I like to box them in so I can see what I'm doing to both sides. I apologize for the extra noise, but I thought I had another pen that would write on my screen. I must not. So I'll have to deal with this one. So then if I go over here, I'm going to put this into a perfect square. Trinomial is what I have, and I'm put it into a product of 2 binomials. And if you use the box method, these would be your 2 binomials on the outside. So that's x plus 1.5 squared equals 2,808.25. And then I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. So if I square root both sides, I get x plus 1.5 on the left side, and because the square and the square root cancel each other out. I'm going to check quick if that's a perfect square. Throw it in my calculator. It is not. Now, I can put plus and minus because mathematically it's both positive and negative, but since my negative doesn't make sense to a length, I'm just going to use the positive side. So I'm going to say this is a positive square root of 2,808 and 25/100. Go down here a little bit because I'm running out of room. I'm going to subtract 1.5 from both sides. So I have x equals negative 1.5 plus the square root of 2,808.25. Now, that's the exact answer. Kind of a weird answer because it's hard to imagine to what that is. So why don't you go ahead and grab your calculators and put negative 1.5 plus the square root of 2,808.25. And you will notice, if we round to the nearest tenth, that's approximately 51.5. So we'll say this is the width of my new maze with the information given. And remember, the length is twice the width, so 2 x's, so that would be approximately 103. So I would have a width of 51.5 yards, and I've had a length of 103 approximately, because I rounded there just so it can kind of make more sense. So go ahead, if you are a fan of turning this off, trying it on your own, and then checking, fast forwarding to see if you get the right answer. And if you don't, rewind and watch what you did and figure out if you can figure out what you did wrong. Or you can watch this whole thing if you're still struggling. So remember, we're working on ones that have a that is not 1. So in this case, that's 5. So, but we're going to still get rid of this A that's right here. We don't want it. I'm sorry, the C that's right there. So we're going to start this really with 5x squared minus 10x equals 15. And why it equals 15 is because I added 15 to both sides to get rid of the old C. Now, because there is a 5 as an A and it's divisible by 5, I'm going to take everything divided by 5. Which leaves me with x squared minus 10x. I'll leave a space there to complete the square, and then I get a 3 on the other side. Nope, I apologize. Let's back that up. You can tell it's almost 11. My brain is slowing down. That would be a negative 2x when I divide by 5. So complete the square if that's easier for you to do it. We get an x squared, an x, and an x. Divide the negative 2 into 2 parts, equal parts, because it's a square. I'd get negative 1 and negative 1 here. And negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. So my new C is 1. So go ahead and put that in a binomial. And again, if you use this method, your binomials are sitting right here on the outside of your square. So negative 1, sorry. So x minus 2 squared equals 4. So to undo that, we're going to square root both sides. So I get x minus 1 left on the left side because the square and square root cancel out. And I get plus or minus, check the square root of 4 is a perfect square, which we know is 2. Still need to add 1 to both sides. So as I write this, listen. I have x left equals the 1 that I brought over plus 2, which I'll put over here, is 3. But if I take 1 minus 2, that's a negative 3. And for time's sake tonight, I take time and I plug those 2 back into the equation. It should equal 0. If it doesn't, then I know I did something wrong and I have to start over again. And I expect you to check them when you're doing them on your own, on your Math Excel and your quiz and your test. Okay, next problem again, stop, try it yourself, fast forward, see if you get the answer. If not, back it up and see what you're doing wrong. So we're taking out the old C, kicking around out there. We get 2x squared minus 10x. And since I'm going to add 20 to both sides, I'll end up with a 28. Positive 28 on both sides. Since I want this to be 1 as my A, I'm going to divide everything by 2. The equation I'm going to start with today here is x squared minus 5x equals 14. I'm going to bring this over here because I seem to write too big and I run out of room every time. So we're going to have x squared minus 5x, leave a space, equals 14. Make my little box down here. X squared and x. Since it's a negative 5, I split that in half, would make 2.5x and negative 2.5x. And if I multiply negative 2.5 times negative 2.5, I'm going to get 6.25. So that's going to be my new C down here in this corner. So add 6.25 to both sides. I like to box them just so I can visually see that I did it to both sides. Go ahead and put this in your binomial. So it's negative, or x minus 2.5 squared equals 20.25. Square root to get rid of the square, which leaves me with x minus 2.5 on the left, and plus or minus, check to see if that's a perfect square, and it is. You get 4.5. So I'm going to write that instead of the square root since it's perfect. Add 2.5 to both sides. This is where you got to be careful how you do this. So x equals, the 2.5 goes first, plus 4.5. I'll keep track of them here. So x equals, I'd be 7. And then if you do 2.5 minus 4.5, that would be a negative 2. So my two solutions to this problem is x equals 7 and x equals negative 2. Again, if I had time, I'd plug it back in. Make sure when I plug in 7 and negative 2 into that equation, it does equal 8. And it will. But on your own, you should make sure without a doubt, because I can guarantee you when I did these the first time, I plugged them in. Okay, 3D, look at it. Stop, try it on your own, or watch me go through it to get more confident in your abilities. For the first step, you have to get rid of that old c, so we're going to add 26 to both sides. You end up with 3x squared plus 18x equals the 21. Whew. Good news is everything's divisible by 3, so I'm going to divide everything by 3. And so the equation I'm going to start with here is x squared, 18x divided by 3 is 6, and 21 divided by 3 is the 7. Okay, so we're going to start to complete the square. So we have x squared plus 6x space equals 7. If you're still using the box, you're more than welcome. If you use the equation, that is awesome too. Divide 6x into 2 parts would leave you with 3x and 3x equal parts. So this means that's 3 and 3. So 3 times 3 leaves you with the 9. So to complete this square, we have to add 9 to both sides. Binomial. That'd be x plus 3. Nice part about doing it this way, you should be able to see that. Equals 16. Take the square root on both sides. Square root and the square cross each other out. So I end up with x plus 3 equals plus or minus, don't forget that, and square root of 16 is a perfect square, which is 4. So subtract 3 from both sides. So x equals negative 3 plus 4. I'll keep track of them over here, which is 1. Or negative 3 minus 4, which is negative 7. So my two answers to this problem is 1 and negative 7. Continue on example number 4 here. It says complete the square, so using that method we're working on, to write the quadratic function in vertex form. So it's been a while since we looked at vertex form, so let's just do a quick reminder. That is f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where, that says where, the vertex is hk. Okay, so you're going to kind of I think you're going to like this one because you don't actually have to solve for x. We're just got to transform it from, notice this is standard form, into vertex form. So first step, using complete the square, we're going to kick out this 11, and we're going to subtract 11 from both sides, which is going to leave us with y minus 11 equals x squared minus 8x. We want a new lovely little y, and I'm going to start using the equation here that we came up with in the classes just to go a little faster here. So b here is -8 divided by 2 is -4. Squared is going to be 16. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides to complete my square. So I have -11 plus 16 is +5. And over here, put that in my binomial. So x minus 4 squared. Well, so if you look back at the vertex form, we're taking care of this part we need to do with the plus k, and that's the easy part. Since I want y by itself to make the equation, I'm just going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I get y equals x minus 4 squared minus 5. Now, it doesn't ask me what the vertex is, but just to remember, your vertex is your h and your k. So in this case, it's a 4 and -5. Okay, stop the video and do it yourself, or watch me do it again. So kick out the old c, subtract 3 from both sides. So you're going to have y minus 3 equals x squared minus 2x. Complete the square. So I'm going to do my b over 2, or b divided by 2 squared is my new c. So -2 divided by 2 is -1 squared is 1. So to complete this one, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have y minus 2 equals, my binomial would be x minus 1 squared. And then the only step left here is to add 2. So my equation would be y equals x plus 1 squared plus 2. Again, it doesn't ask me my vertex, but just to remind you, my vertex on this one would be, oh, hold on, back up. Somehow I changed it to a minus. It's -1. Would be 1, 2. Remember, it's the h and the k. Last one of these problems. Kick out the old y. See you later. Subtract 25 on both sides. We get y minus 25 equals x squared plus 6x. Half of 6 is 3 divided by, or I'm sorry, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Squared is 9. So to complete the square, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So I'm going to get y minus 16 equals x plus 3 squared. Y needs to be by itself because we're just leaving it in a vertex form. So your final answer is y equals x plus 3 squared plus 16, where my vertex would be -3, 16. All right, last example. And on this last example, you're going to notice, kind of from the directions here, that a doesn't equal 1 anymore. So there's a little step there in the middle. It's not too hard to understand, but you got to be careful with it. So here's your storyline. Astronauts train for flying in a zero gravity using a special plane that flies in a parabolic arcs. The graph shown approximates the altitude A in meters of the plane in relation to time t in seconds during the training session. The question is, what is the maximum altitude reached by the plane, and what time does the plane reach this maximum altitude? So it sounds like the vertex. Looking for the vertex. So the equation is A equals -5 t squared plus 80t plus 9,000. So our goal here is just put it in vertex form so we can look at the vertex. So get rid of that beautiful little old c by subtracting 90,000 or 9,000 from both sides. which would leave you with a minus 9,000 equals negative 5t plus 80t. Now, we don't want to divide everything by 5, negative 5 in particular, because that would make my a negative 1/5, and that just be a disaster. But what we do need to do, and what we've done kind of before when we did the grouping method, is we're going to take this negative 5, because we know that's the a in vertex form, way back here, and we're going to take that out. So it's kind of like taking out the greatest common factor, exactly what it is. So if I take negative 5 out, that would leave me with t squared minus 16t. And still over here, I have a minus 9,000. So we're going to complete the square still, even though it's got an a that is not 1. I have an equal sign there. So negative 5 t squared minus 16t. So here's where I'm going to complete the square. I'm going to erase this here for a second and just draw it backwards a little further here. So if I take half of negative 16, which would be negative 8, and then square that would be 64. So I'm going to add 64 to both sides. I should say, I'm going to add 64 in that spot. Now, here's the deal, though, because that 64 is being multiplied by the negative 5 in front. So when you go to keep equivalency here, you still have to take that negative 5 times 64 in consideration. So really what you're doing over here is taking negative 5 times 64. And you can put that in your calculator and just put that value, or just leave it so you can visually see that you put in the same thing to both sides. So my calculator, I'd take negative 9,000 minus 5 times 64, and I'd end up with a minus 9,320. Now over here, I have negative 5. Put this in my beautiful little parentheses here with my square. So that would be t minus 8 squared. And then remember, we're just going vertex form. So we're going to add 9,320 both sides. My final answer is a equals negative 5 t minus 8 squared. And then remember, I'm adding this 9,320. So the question was, what was my maximum altitude and and when did it happen? Well, my max altitude happened at 9,320 meters. Looks like we're measuring in so this is my y value of my vertex, and this is my x value of my vertex right here. So at 8 seconds. Pretty sure we're measuring in seconds. Perfect. Okay, you're going to try one without any storyline, just working on that idea. And I'm going to erase this because I kind of wrote on top of it. So we're just putting this vertex form, not solving here. So first thing we're going to do is going to kick out that old y or c. We're going to end up with y minus 105 equals, leave a space right now, 7x squared plus 168x. Okay, we need to get this a, in other words, take the greatest common factor out of this side so we can deal with a little smaller numbers. So if I take 7x squared divided by 7, I get x squared, and 128 divided by 7 would leave me with 24x. So here's where I'm sitting. Now I got to complete the square. So I'm going to take x minus 105, leave a space here, and 7 times x squared plus 24. Now we're going to complete the square here. So half of 24 is 12. That squared is 144. So to complete my square, I'm going to add 144. Remember on this side, though, it's 7 times 144. So I put that in my calculator. So negative 105 plus 7 times 144, I'm going to get y minus, no, plus 903 equals 7, and then I'm going to put this in my binomial. So set x plus 12 squared. The last part's the easy part. You just take away 903 from both sides. And your equation is y equals 7 times x plus 12 squared minus 903. So my minimum value would be 903. Or my lovely vertex is sitting here at negative 12, negative 903. So this would be my minimal value, the y value. Okay, last try it. Stop if that's how you like to do it. Try it, see if it works. If not, you can listen to me walk through it. So today we're going to solve here. John is standing on a balcony looking over a table and throws a rock up in the air. The height of the rock in feet is represented by the function h of x equals negative 16 t squared plus 32t plus 5. Use the vertex form of the quadratic function to determine the max height. So we're looking again for the lovely little vertex. I'm going to change this just to h, just so we don't get a little confused. And we can put it back to h to t at the end. So here's our beautiful formula. And what I should have done is kick out that 5 right away so I can start here. So I have big handwriting, so I run out of room. And then remember, your step is to take out the greatest common factor. So this case is negative 16. So if I divide everything by negative 16, I get t squared minus 2t. And remember, h minus 5 is over here. Now we're going to do that beautiful completing the square. So h minus 5, leave a little space here, negative 16 t squared minus 2t. Half of negative 2t is negative 1, squared is 1. So I'll change color here. So adding 1 is completing the square over here. But remember, it's negative 16 times 1. I'll write it like that, or you can just put negative 16. So negative 5 minus 16 is a negative 21. Put this, oops, forgot my negative 16. Negative 16, parenthesis, t minus 1 squared. Then add your 21 to both sides. So your final answer is h equals, we're going to go h of t if you want that back in there, negative 16 t minus 1 squared plus 2. Whoops, 21. I was going to say, I added 21 on that side. I was confused there. Plus 21. So what's the max height? The max height that the rocket reaches is 21, what are we in? Feet. You can see feet right here. 21 feet is my max height because my vertex is sitting here at 1. So after 1, I don't know if they told us, I assume second, he's 21 feet. And the rock is 21 feet. So hopefully that helped. My expectation is that you attempt to get as much of the Math Excel done today and tonight. And then when you come back tomorrow, I'll give you about 45 minutes to finish up, 5 iExcel's questions that you're struggling with that I can try to explain. And then I'll give you some time to work on the quizzes, but everyone's going to stop and take the quiz at the end of the period. So have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.